harassment and torture.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us here today. Before I begin, I'd like to thank a couple of my Democratic colleagues amid a very, very busy day here in Washington, D.C. for coming out and not only joining us here for today's press conference, but also being tremendous supporters of this legislation and the bill that is going to help to protect people across this nation. I'd also like to thank the advocates who've shown their support for this critical piece of legislation. Right now, congressional Republicans are forcing through a funding bill that will send $70 billion in taxpayer funding to the Department of Homeland Security on top of the $100 billion in unspent funds from last year's big ugly bill. DHS is flush with cash, but congressional Republicans are going to throw another $70 billion into that out-of-control department. Tens of billions of dollars. And not a single reform to a department that's operated with impunity, shot American citizens in cold blood on our streets, trampled on the Constitution, and left a blind man to die on the streets of my community in Buffalo, New York. His name was Narul Amin Shah Alam. Mr. Shah Alam was a Rohingya refugee from Burma who followed the rules, came here legally, and like so many of our ancestors, he was simply searching for a better life for his family. Just 14 months after arriving in America, he died, classified by the Erie County Medical Examiner as a homicide. His death was entirely preventable. Mr. Shah Alam was wrongfully detained by DHS despite his legal status. Then, without notifying his family or attorney, DHS personnel left him on the streets of Buffalo in a dark parking lot outside a coffee shop that was closed in the middle of winter without proper clothing for inclement weather. Mr. Shah Alam spoke little to no English, was largely blind, and had mobility issues. He was found dead 5 days later. DHS, as usual, immediately began disseminating misinformation, saying he was dropped off at a warm, safe location. Video evidence quickly proved that they were lying. Mr. Shah Alam's family deserved to know his whereabouts, and the American people deserve to know the truth of what happened to Mr. Shah Alam. When someone is in federal custody, their family should never have to question their safety. That's especially true when they're wrongfully detained. That's why I introduced the DHS Release Transparency Act, legislation that requires DHS to provide notification to families or another point of contact in advance of their loved one being released from custody. Right now, there is no law requiring DHS to notify a point of contact before releasing a detainee. My bill closes that gap and requires DHS to make families aware of their loved one's upcoming release prior to release from custody in order to ensure their safety and well-being. It also mandates translation and interpretation services throughout the entirety of the notification process, ensuring DHS communicates with detainees and their point of contact in a language that they can understand. Today, Narul Amin Shah Alam should be surrounded by his family, full of hope for the memories that they were about to make. Instead, they searched frantically for him for 5 days in the Buffalo winter cold, only to find their worst nightmare realized when he was found dead on the street in downtown Buffalo, 5 miles from his home. This was a completely avoidable tragedy. This legislation is a concrete step toward accountability in ensuring that no family ever has to go through what Mr. Shah Alam's family has. Shah Alam's family attorney recently stated that had this bill been law, Mr. Shah Alam would be alive and at home with his family today. Sadly, this wasn't the case. This legislation will save lives and prevent future tragedies like what happened in Buffalo from ever happening anywhere across this great nation. Now it's my great honor to introduce a friend, a champion, and a leader on this legislation from New Jersey, Representative LaMonica McIver. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Congressman Kennedy for gathering us here today and for doing the urgent work of forcing transparency and accountability from ICE. It is so needed. With this administration, we are truly witnessing the governance of monsters. When it comes to ICE and DHS, we have learned a painful lesson over and over again. When there is no transparency, there is no accountability. And when there is no accountability, abuse follows. I've seen it personally. I've been to the ICE detention center in my district multiple times. I've spoken with detainees, their family members, advocates about the horrors people are experiencing inside of Delaney Hall. I have listened to stories that should outrage every person in this country. Food that is green and rotten, even containing live worms. Pregnant women suffering miscarriages without medical attention. A 41-year-old man named John Wilson Brutus died within 24 hours of entering Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center. This isn't simply an issue with Delaney Hall, it's about how ICE is rotten to the core. There is an overwhelming proof of this rot in the lives, and it lives in families that they have broken because of ICE's cruelty. One of those stories is Nurul Amin Shah Alam. Mr. Shah Alam came to America seeking safety and opportunity. Instead, after being released from DHS custody, neither his family nor his attorney was notified. No one knew where he was. No one knew he needed help. DHS simply dropped him off at a closed coffee shop in winter weather without proper clothing. 5 days after his release, he was found dead. One phone call could have changed everything. A simple phone call. But transparency isn't what ICE does. These instances are not random, and they're not just reckless, they are intentionally deceptive and cruel. That is why this bill matters. The DHS Release Transparency Act is an effort to hold DHS accountable, to make sure that they can't hide, to make sure that what happened to Mr. Shah Alam never happens again. Operating in secret, lying about details, and hiding information is exactly what gives ICE and DHS the power to abuse our neighbors. We are saying that it ends now. No one's family should have to panic about where their loved one is or wonder if their loved one is alive. This is basic. The same principle that drives our oversight work at Delaney Hall is what drives this legislation. People in government custody do not stop being people just because they are in government custody. Not now, not ever. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from another wonderful leader and champion within the caucus and across this great nation from California, Representative Judy Chu.
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu from California and Chair Emerita of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. And I am here to support Congressman Kennedy and all of you today as we demand accountability from Trump's lawless Department of Homeland Security. You know, 70% of Asian Pacific Islanders are limited English proficient. And in Mr. Shah Alam's death, I see the plight of AAPI immigrants all across this country, where language access can be the difference between life and death. But since day one, this administration has treated vulnerable people as if their lives do not matter, and for people with limited English proficiency, the consequences have been utterly devastating. Let's be clear about what happened to Mr. Nurul Amin Shah Alam. Mr. Shah Alam was a Rohingya refugee who was lawfully present in the U.S. He faced significant language barriers while in government custody. Yet, instead of ensuring that he understood what was happening to him, instead of providing interpretation services, instead of notifying his family or attorney, DHS released him alone into freezing temperatures with nothing besides a pair of county-issued boots for shoes. He was elderly, disabled, and abandoned at a closed coffee shop. And days later, he was dead. No human should ever be treated this way. If a loved one had been notified of his upcoming release and if translation services were provided to him, Mr. Shah Alam would be alive today. But instead of addressing these failures, ICE announced just last week that it will stop reporting deaths that occur after individuals are released from detention. That is unacceptable. Deaths in ICE custody are at record highs, and the administration is scrambling to cover up the fact that they are responsible for this horrific failure. And that is why Congressman Kennedy's bill, the DHS Release Transparency Act, is so incredibly important and why I am proud to co-sponsor it. This bill would establish translation and interpretation services and a real compliance framework so that we never have cases like Mr. Shah Alam's again. I spent decades fighting for language access because I've seen what happens when our government fails people who are not fluent in English. And that is why I have introduced legislation to establish and enforce language access standards across the federal government. No one should be denied safety, fairness, or due process simply because they primarily speak a different language. But this bill sends a clear message. DHS must be responsible for an individual's well-being and safety when released from custody, full stop. So I want to thank Congressman Kennedy for his leadership and for honoring Mr. Shah Alam's memory by demanding action. We demand transparency, we demand accountability, and we demand that DHS treat every person in its custody with the dignity and humanity they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Chu. Next, a great friend of mine, again, a champion for the people and a fellow New Yorker, Representative George Latimer. Thank you, George.
Thank you. I want to stand with my colleagues here. Congressman Tim Kennedy has introduced a practical, workable answer to the problem of the death of this individual, as pointed out. This is not just showing outrage. This is laying out a game plan by which future situations like this could be avoided and future lives could be saved. And we thank Congressman Kennedy for that leadership. We should thank Congresswoman McIver for her personal leadership. She has personally gone into Delaney Hall and settings like that with her own personal safety on the line and showing that type of bravery to be able to see and document those conditions. And we owe Congresswoman Chu also credit for the work that she's done over the course of her career. This is about a practical policy that has to change, but it is also about something that involves morality. Many of my colleagues across the aisle reference their faith traditions. I happen to be a Christian as well. And many of them talk from the evangelical standpoint about how important it is that we have religious processes to the way we approach things. Let me misquote perhaps, from the Christian Bible, Matthew 25. Lord, when did I see you naked? When did I see you in prison? When did I see you hungry or in need? When you did this for the least of my brothers, you did this for me. And Lord, when did I see you in prison and not minister to you? Hungry and not feed you? Naked and not clothe you? When you did so to the least of my brothers? This isn't just a moving part of Scripture. This is the exact reality. We've lost our humanity in the administration of this government. We have lost our connection to moral principles when we can see a man die on the street and not care and not change policies and procedures to make things work. This bill will help do that. But underlying it underlying all of this is a disrespect for humanity. My colleagues have said it, and I repeat the same argument. And it's seen in policy after policy after policy. How people of faith can support such policies is amazing to me. It denies everything that we say we believe, whatever our faith traditions are. So let us get back to a practical reality. Let us adopt this bill, make it become the ability to change the way ICE operates, along with 1,000 other changes that they have to make. And then my colleagues here and other colleagues in this legislature will start to show that America is as good as we say it is on our 250th birthday.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Congressman Latimer. To that, I'll take any questions.
I have a question. So you guys are talking about Donald Trump being lawless, and one of the things that I've been reading a lot of lately is that Donald Trump has been instructing the DOJ to not even abide by settled law and to challenge it at every point. So how does a bill actually kind of put him back in line to where he just doesn't go along the dictatorial lines?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. But we're going to take on-topic questions to start. Any on-topic questions regarding this legislation? Okay, thanks. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. All right, thanks, everybody.
Great job.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah, no, we're going to get this done.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
Sure. Oh, yeah, sure.
Can I hold your kids in? Get right here. I'm gonna put it in the back. It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you want to get one more, Michaela? We smile, no smile. All right, all right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Let us know what we need to do
see ya.
to stand behind you.
Have a conversation. Yeah. Yeah. My friend.
Thank you. Well, okay, so I cover mostly the homeless issue, and I think what they did with immigration and the homeless are next. And a lot of what I've been reading about Donald Trump is that he's been instructing the DOJ not to follow settled law. So there's laws out there such as when they do a homeless sweep, they're supposed to give notice, offer services, and stuff like that. They're misrepresenting the grants pass case and using that as a way to do a sweep without offering services or offering anything else like that. But this isn't just happening in the homeless community, it's happening across all of the federal law enforcement agencies. Yeah, most definitely. But just like with the Constitution and all of its constraints, how is this not able to be constrained from where one man usurps all of government? Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
I'm still liking the boom, maybe? Should we do the boom here? Well, if you think this works, if you think this
The
works.
problem is, it doesn't get high enough, and I don't see any way that it's going to get high enough. You know what?